want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. Successful.
Have you ever had that feeling that life was just unfulfilling? More that you try to find it, the more that you got to witness the bush that you done been in. All the pain you done went through, I'm grateful.
Alright guys, well, haven't done a video on the Yukon in a while. Haven't done a video on anything steadily, anyway, in a while. But, if you're wondering about the Jeep videos, they're still on the hard drive. Haven't messed with them. Might mess with them, I don't know, sometime this week or next week, maybe, possibly, who knows. But, in a previous video, I talked about having a problem with the tailshaft bushing on the transmission, and it sliding out and pushing my rear seal out and causing the... But, the bushing gets pushed out, which pushes out the seal, the tailshaft seal, and when all that pushes out, the drive shaft has freedom to move up, down, side to side, and start losing fluid and a bunch of other stuff. So I really haven't been able to drive it. Ow. So I really haven't been able to drive it except with a trailer. The trailer sits the back end down enough, keeps it down, keeps it from bouncing and pulling that, pulling on the drive shaft too much. Honestly, it needs a longer drive shaft. It needs at least another, an inch at the very minimum, probably an inch and a half. I've just been delaying it because it's been working so far for the last 4 years. Wow, yeah, 4 years. But I haven't lifted it, so probably three and a half years. I replaced the bushing when I first got it. After I lifted it, I replaced the bushing with a new seal because they were leaking. I got another bushing and I got another seal, but I didn't get the conical seal which I wanted. Hopefully that seal's still good, but I just got under there and looked, and it doesn't look like it's sealing much at all anymore. So I might have to temporarily put on a seal which I don't want, a seal that doesn't have the dust boot. I want the dust boot, but I don't think I'm going to have it. So I'll just put the bushing in, put the seal in, and then come back later and change the seal. But I'll goop up the tail shaft with grease. I think the thing was that I used a different trailer than I usually use when I took the Jeep out one time, and it was the Jeep was really far forward, so it was extremely tongue heavy, and all of the rust that had built up on the drive shaft jammed itself into that seal. And once I'd taken the trailer off, it yanked the seal out, yanked the bushing out. So we'll see. I'll get under here and show you what it looks like. As of right now, the seal's not out, but you can see it's dripping, which to be honest, it's always leaked. Ow, these rocks hurt. These seals didn't, the seals never sealed, the best because of how, you can see how long that drive shaft's sticking out. It's never sealed the best, obviously because it's so far out, but it's still sealed. It wasn't just completely, drenched like it was. I mean, I had a nice bit of rust right here, but when that pushes out, the seal pushes to like right there, and you can see the bushing just sitting there. So this should be a nice quick video. I wish I backed up further. The battery's dead because I haven't cranked it in a couple months. So I'm going to go ahead and take this out, and it should be quick. So I'll come back when I get it out. Alright, there's the bushing. The lighting's horrible. You can see how much of a lip there is on it because I couldn't get it hammered in all the way. You can also see how chewed up that bushing is in there. There's actually a ridge, I think. But this is the seal with the dust cap on it. I'm guessing that seal shot. Like I said, it was leaking out pretty heavily. Spring's still in there. Oh yeah, the edge is rolled over. So yeah, it should be easy to bang out because it's almost all the way out. So that shouldn't be too hard. Here's the drive shaft. You see the clear spot which is in there. You can technically see where it rides. Honestly, that piece right there, that's about all that rides on that bushing, is what it looks like. And I've been driving around, and I've been riding around for 3 years with only that much hanging on. Yeah, I'm gonna polish that whole shaft, get the big amount of rust off of it, and I'm just gonna grease it up, and hopefully keep it from rusting. And I need to go to the junkyard and get me another shaft and go down to the. I gotta figure out where it is. Go down to that drive shaft place, and get him to lengthen me a drive shaft. But yeah, easy. You just pry the seal off and you just hammer the old bushing out, hammer the new bushing in. I'm going to do that real quick. There's the new one all in there. Like I said, the old one came, practically almost all the way out, or just a little bit out, and then it just fell out. Yeah, it's worn and it's beat to heck, but yeah, this seal is definitely bad. The spring is missing, so no wonder it's been leaking like a sieve. Spring probably got destroyed one of the times it flew out. How I got the seal in, I don't have a seal driver big enough. When I took it out, I used this seal driver and just banged on all the edges around in a circle until I got it to come out. I used the brass hammer and another hammer to get that seal in. Now I got to get this seal in, which you can see I've kind of started on it. It's just, you got to hammer it down a little bit, and then this isn't going to be big enough. Crap. Guess I'll just do it the old-fashioned way and just keep on going around in a circle. I think that's how I did this one. There we go. That wasn't too bad. Now I'm just going to go and take some emery cloth to the drive shaft, clean the drive shaft up, and I'll put this back on and be done. Alrighty. There it is. I did it with emery cloth, and then might be able to see some of those gashes. Hammering it in and out, I obviously gashed up the drive shaft. So went around with one of those little rotary file type sandpaper thingies on a drill, and went around there a couple times. All I'm going to do is slather this thing up with grease, try to keep the rust down, and put it back in. And there it is. I do not like this seal, so I need to go pick up another seal. Man, it still moves in and out pretty darn hard, because that drive shaft's way too short. Theoretically, it should stay in. I mean, it stayed in for years. I didn't start having problems till recently. Anyway, that's it for now. I don't know when this video is going to go up. I might let it go up after. I'm not driving it to work tomorrow because I don't want that thing coming out. But I'll probably drive it throughout the week or something when I get home, see what happens. Alrighty. Well, you may know it's a daylight now, and it's been a couple weeks. Well, I decided to drive it to work Thursday. I decided to drive it to work Thursday. It's been about a week, maybe 2. And I drove it around Wednesday night. Everything was fine. I took the highway, drove around town a little bit. So I was like, okay, I think it's going to stay in. I can go to work now. So I decided to take a risk on Thursday. And yep, it came out again. There's the bushing. There's the seal. There's the transmission. Yep. So, that was a fail. So I left it at work, rode home with a buddy. Came back the next day with a car hauler, which was yesterday, hauled it home. Today's Saturday. Went to work. After I left work, went to pull apart. This, you will not believe how hard it is to find this 4-bolt 4L60E tailshaft housing. Tail housing. Out of all of the GMT 400s, the 88 to 98 trucks, and SUVs, and S10s, and Blazers, none of them, they were either missing the transmission, the older ones, which would probably have had this, or they were 98, 99, 97, and they all had the 6-bolt, which I actually talked to the parts guys at work and had them order one in. There was one in town. Went to go pick it up. It was a 6-bolt. Got my VIN number, got the one that should be, and it's discontinued. By the 5 or 6 times that my shaft has come out, the bushing has come out, I bet the inside of my housing is boogered and it won't hold a seal anymore. So I finally found this when I was leaving. I was leaving, and I was looking at Astra vans and Savannah vans too. Before I left, right by the entrance, there was a 96 Savannah van. I went under it, and I found this. This was the only one on the lot. 4 bolts. All the other ones were 6 bolts. But anyway, got that. I also got a new bushing. A new AC Delco bushing and a new AC Delco seal, the one that actually has the boot on the end of it. And that's what I'm not gonna pull this bushing out. I don't want to pull this bushing out because it's been replaced recently. Same with this seal. This seal should have the boot on the end, which it doesn't. So I'm going to replace the boot with, or no, I'm going to replace the seal with the seal that has the boot, and put my speed sensor in there, and I'm going to put this on there. And you might want to know why I had the back end jacked up. Say goodbye to the 2-inch blocks. The whole reason this is happening is because my drive shaft's too short. I could get a custom drive shaft, or I looked for a drive shaft while I was down there. They were all for the 6-bolt housing, and I believe the 6-bolt housing has a bigger drive shaft. I don't know for certain, but I didn't want to take a risk. So I didn't get any drive shafts, not to mention the drive shafts were either missing, they were, destroyed in one way, U-joints were missing, so I didn't want to get a drive shaft, rebuild it, and. So a Suburban drive shaft may fit, a K1500 drive shaft may fit, but I'm just going to lower the rear end 2 inches. It shouldn't be too unlevel, because as the truck sits now, I think it's about an inch lower in the front, so maybe the rear will be an inch down. But at this point, it's gonna, I eventually am going to put a solid axle in it. I don't want to spend the money on either getting a custom drive shaft or getting mine lengthened. I know it's not going to be much money, less than $100 to get it lengthened, probably. But save a little bit of money, take the blocks out. this rear end setup is probably going to be different when I do the solid axle swap anyway. I don't know if I'm keeping these leaf packs. I think I might be going, you know, with a custom leaf pack, you know, built for towing, that gives me my 6 inches of lift. Roughly, I got to figure out how much lift the front has, and then figure out what leafs I need in the rear. But I plan on getting custom leafs that are, you know, built for this specifically, that are lifted, but that are also, you know, heavy duty for towing. You know, or I might keep these leaf packs and just put you know, a bigger block on it or something. But I don't like a block anyway, so I'm probably not. So yeah, let me go ahead and do that. Same as last video, just take drive shaft out, take the 10 millimeters off the yoke, pull the drive shaft out, take the 14-15s off the housing to pull the housing off, and then I'm going to go ahead and polish that drive shaft up some more because it might be marred up, and then I'll start taking the blocks off. Yeah. I think it's safe to say that I'm glad that I went and got another one. These are discontinued through GM. You can't get these anymore. You can only get the 6-bolt. I'm glad I didn't decide to just try to get this one. What I didn't say is all the other times when it came out, I didn't have to drive very far. I still drove a little bit, but I didn't drive too far. This time when it came out, I was a little over a mile from work. I was running late, so I just dropped it in the 3rd gear, which brings the line pressure up so it doesn't slip like it does when it's in overdrive. And I drove it the rest of the way to work because I didn't have time to stop and put it back in. So that's what's going to happen when you lose your bushing and you decide to say, screw it, and drive. Yeah, it splits the housing. And of course, it's splitting the housing because not only is the drive shaft vibrating all over the place because there's no bushing holding it, but for me, because I'm lifted, there's also a tremendous amount of downforce trying to push the drive shaft down. So, yeah, my seal might be better than the other one. But yeah, there's metallic shavings all in this. Yeah, I think I am going to be doing I might need to do a pan service. Someday this week when I drive to work, probably not during the week, but during the weekend. Seems like I'm going to be not only doing a trans flush, but it looks like I'm going to be changing the actual filter too, because that's horrible. Yeah. So now let me switch these sensors over, and let me pull this out and get the other get the gasket. Alright, just if anybody's looking to do this, this is the part number. Here's the bushing, which I said I'm not going to replace on this one unless I have to. Here's the part number for the 4-bolt housing. I think it's different. Well, the 6-bolt through GM is not serviceable, because I tried to get it at first and they said it's non-serviceable. You had to order the housing. So I ordered the housing. Housing came in wrong housing. Found the right housing, and you could get the bushing. That's the part number for. It might be the same for the 700Rs too, because this is the same type of housing the 700R uses. And here's the seal. This is the seal with the boot on it, which is what you want, which this one, when they replaced it, they didn't do that. This one that I replaced, you saw it didn't have the boot either, but the one I replaced before that, I did have the boot. And to be honest, I would go through GM to get these parts, because if they have them in stock, or if you can wait, you know, either a couple of hours if they're in town and they can order it in that day, or if you can wait till the next day, you know, if they're local, because these are roughly the same price, getting both of these, as getting just a kit that has this kit right here, which has an inner bushing and a seal. This is roughly the same price, and you're getting the more expensive bushing that has the boot on it, which you want, because that keeps your the travel, it keeps it sealed so you don't get rust, which caused my seal to pull out, which caused my bushing to pull out in the first place, was rust. I put that I put that U-Haul on it. My Jeep was a lot farther forward than it's used to being. It pushed the rust into the bushing and dislodged the bushing. So when I took the trailer off and started driving, it pulled the bushing out. That's when I first started having problems. Was back in June when I borrowed that U-Haul. Ever since then, if I pull a trailer, it's fine. If I don't pull a trailer, it pulls out. So, yeah, I would get the OEM when you can, if you can. Like I said, it's not that much more money. Alrighty, housing is, well, the seal is put on, sensors put in, and it's back together, ready to go in the truck. I'm gonna spend some time and probably look at the output shaft. It didn't look damaged to me, and there doesn't look to be any damage to the transmission case itself from the drive shaft moving all around. Yeah, they're slacking it, but there's been slacking it because there's nothing, you know. Even when I took this apart way back when I first got it, they're slacking that output shaft because there's nothing supporting it. So what I'm probably going to do, first of all, I need to clean that drive shaft back up and polish it, and there is a ridge in it that I'm going to have to somehow smooth out. It really needs a new yoke. Might destroy this seal, but this seal is not that much. It's a pain in the butt to get in because I don't have a cup big enough to fit it, so I got to tap it all around. It isn't too bad, it's just a little tedious because I don't do it every day. So I'm just going to look at the drive shaft, you know, make sure everything seems fine, and then I'm going to slather up the splines of the output shaft with that transmission assembly lube. And then I need to polish the drive shaft, and then I'll start working on the rear end. Which all I gotta do is take U-bolts off, drop the axle, you know, and then rinse and repeat. Put the U-bolts back in and tighten them back up, and be good. Yeah. All right, before I let everything back down on the ground. Anyway, the transmission mount on this one's broken. That might have something to do with stuff, but. Took the blocks off, and I actually installed the U-bolts that came with the rough country lift. When I used the rough country lift, plus my my combination leaf pack that I made, plus the 2-inch blocks, I could not use the U-bolts that came with the rough country lift. But now that I have the blocks gone, that extra 2 inches makes it where I can use these U-bolts. So that's good. I'm glad I found them. They were where I left them, but they weren't. I had them on a shelf, and they fell off the shelf and were pushed under something. But yeah, I'm glad I kept those around. So now I got the rough country U-bolts, which you're not supposed to use U-bolts twice. You're never, ever, ever supposed to reuse U-bolts. Ever. You're never supposed to reuse them. One-time use only. But people reuse them. Sometimes you can get away with it. Sometimes you can't. Because U-bolts stretch. And that's the reason you can't reuse them. But people reuse them all the time with no problems. But you really need to replace them. I got the tail housing on, and I'll show you. Before that, here's the drive shaft. There was some aluminum gouging or gauing on this. Some of the aluminum stuck to this, so I buffed it all down. It should be even smoother than it was. And here it is. And on the inside, you can see there's some blue stuff. I have a crap ton of this transmission assembly lube. Some good stuff. And I wasn't even shot. But anyway, that stuff is what I used when I put the when I put the valve body. When I put the valve body in the 4L60E in the Sonoma, I use that to keep the balls in place, the check balls, because I got all new check balls. I went in there and I replaced everything. Obviously, I replaced the valve body, but I also replaced all the solenoids, the internal wiring harness, the check balls, you know, and of course the pressure plate. You had to replace that. And I replaced everything with AC Delco except the check balls, which I couldn't get AC Delco. They were just from the transmission shop, but online transmission place. But that stuff dissolves in transmission fluid, which is why if you need something to keep check balls in place, you don't just use grease, because that doesn't dissolve in transmission fluid. That does. So this will let me slide the drive shaft in and let it have a little bit of a slip, but slowly and surely this will dissolve. So yeah. I got it down, and my mount, I don't know if you can tell, but yeah, it's cracked right there. I got two different mounts. I got an OE mount, and I got a energy suspension. I'm probably going to put the energy suspension one on. But yeah, let me lower it down. Let me get this mount changed. I don't have enough jack to jack it up and do it. I'm going to do that, get this mount changed, and yeah, this mount should be easy. Bolt there. There's a bolt there. And there's a nut there. I really don't have to, hope I don't have to remove this cross member. I don't want to remove the cross member. Maybe I can get enough room. And there it is, the new motor mount in. It should be straight, but I don't know if it actually is. I think it's over to the side just a little bit, but that's the only way I could get the bolt in, so yeah. Anyway, now it's time to get the drive shaft in, and then fill it up with transmission fluid. Alright, got everything in, the drive shaft's in. Something's the splines are binding on the drive shaft. I don't know if it's the drive shaft, the internal splines that are messed up from being so far out for 3 years, or if it's the actual output shaft on the trans. Trans output shaft doesn't look, you know, I didn't see anything bad, so it could be the drive shaft end, which would make sense. But I got it in. But it's about as far in as it, you know, as far in as it will go. I had to actually hammer it in and then hammer it back out in order to get it in the U-joint on the axle. It'll work its way in, going over bumps, driving down the road, bouncing. It will wear itself in. Yeah, I mean, I should have got a drive shaft a long time ago. But that's the nature of these GMT 400 SUVs. If it's two-wheel drive and you lift them any substantial amount, you're gonna need a drive shaft regardless. Otherwise, you might get by like I did for 3 years. Or you will have problems practically, you know, all the time. I just drove it down the road, you know, drove it around the block. You know, there is no block out where I live, but down the road, down the back road, you know, and did a big circle. It drives fine. You might be able to tell. I can't tell. I have to see it in the daylight. It looks level. If it's not level, it's looking at the running board. I don't know. I think it's about an inch lower in the back. I think it's about how it was when I had my front lifted about 6 inches and my rear was lifted where it was. My front's now about 5 inches, so my rear could be 4 or it could be 5. I don't know. I guess my rear was about 6 or something, 6, 7, something. I don't know. I don't know what I have in the rear because I have that custom leaf pack. It's at least 4. I know that. But yeah, I don't know if the camera picks anything up. If you can tell if it's actually tilted back. Looking in the viewfinder, I can't really tell. If it's back in the back, whatever. I rode with it with a slight Cali lean when I had the front lifted 6 inches. So riding with another slight Cali lean I mean, even though I don't like Cali lean, if it's just a little bit, and if it's to get me by, then I'll take it. So that's where I'm going to end this. It's been about 2 weeks worth of video or ish. About a couple weeks ago is when I did the repaired it. Then you know, it failed the other day when I actually drove it. If this messes up again, I'll have another video on it. But as of right now, I'm done. I'll probably drive it in the next couple days, maybe. Let the Sonoma rest for a little bit, even though I just, you know, washed it and did everything else today. Probably drive it at least the first couple of days next week. See what happens. If it starts getting hot again, I'm going back to the Sonoma because that has AC. Yeah, that's where I'm going to end it for now. I'll talk to y'all later. I'm probably not going to edit tonight. I don't know. It'll be up either sometime this weekend, maybe Monday. I don't know. Talk to y'all later. Bye.